Good afternoon. Appreciate the court convening to consider one item for our agenda on this meeting. That one item is a special called meeting to consider a memorandum of understanding between the Administrative Office of the Courts of the State of Kentucky and Scott County Fiscal Court for a capital construction project to construct the Scott County Judicial Center. But before we consider that one item, I'd like to ask Stacy Hamilton to call the roll.
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Livingston? Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Here. With that said, we'll move to our one item for consideration, and that is the memorandum of understanding. And this is a requirement that the court must consider and approve for it's essentially for the Administrative Office of the Court's budget recommendation that is with the House right now. And I shared this with court members yesterday, 11-page document that outlines requirements from the fiscal court and understanding with everything that would go into the potential of building a new Scott County Judicial Center. I also shared with you an amendment to the Administrative Procedures of the Court of Justice, Part 10, Section 1, Construction Program Development. And that's an 83-page document that essentially outlines how the Project Development Board would operate during the construction of said Judicial Center. Rand, did you have time to review the MOU and the just take a look at the administrative procedures as well?
I did read the memorandum of understanding. I didn't see anything in there that seemed like to me was a big problem. I did call the fellow you referred me to ask him a question or two, and he was very helpful.
Danny Rhodes.
Yeah. Now, I have not read this Part X or whatever it's called. Just thumbed through it, but
What we are considering is the 11-page document.
yeah.
And essentially what that does is it outlines the scope of work for the project, and the Judicial Center project scope would be $37,330,000. The general fund support would be $3,566,200 and that's paid by the general fund of the state of Kentucky. We are agreeing to bond that $37,330,000, and the state of Kentucky will pay the debt service on that. Anything else you had a question or comment about, Rand?
Now, it looks like we have to set up a project development board, I guess, that kind of supervises this. We also have to set up a nonprofit, and I talked to that fellow about that, and I guess essentially that entity will hold title until the debt's paid, and then we'll transfer it to the county. But the principals, the people behind that nonprofit, he said would be the court and you, Judge. So, it's kind of like when you get a mortgage. If you want to get the loan, you got to sign these documents, and I think that's the way this is. To get this, we have to sign. But I don't see red flags in it.
Yes, and I agree with you. What Rand mentioned, the Project Development Board, that is, the composition of that is set by the state and by the AOC, and there are 6 voting members and 4 advisory non-voting members. And the way that breaks down is that the county judge executive, the most senior circuit judge, the most senior district judge, the circuit court clerk, a citizen at large who resides in the county to be appointed by the AOC director, and a designee of the executive director of the Kentucky Bar Association. And then advisory members are the manager of the capital construction facilities coordinator, AOC budget director, AOC general counsel or designee, and then the owner or the fiscal court's legal counsel, the county attorney. Rand would be on that as a advisory member. What questions or comments does any court member have in regards to the consideration for the MOU?
There was, I didn't mark it, but there was language in there about if the county wanted a portion of the building, it would be prorated, so there was a possibility that we could add the building
And
to some of our needs.
and I asked about that, and Rick was there when we asked. Rick, would you like to?
Well, the square footage that they have on here is what's gonna be theirs. So if the county was to add to it, it could be for something like, county attorney, office space, cause they list a whole handful of things that can be there, and they're probably gonna be there, but then also then they mentioned somebody else,
They mentioned the Commonwealth attorney. In some situations, there is square footage for the Commonwealth Attorney's
well,
office.
that would be up to the court, that's what, or the county, that's what they're talking about,
But I asked specifically, would that not be funded by PAC?
yeah.
And they said that has been, but they said for cost, they have not had, because of cost.
I don't think that
The
PAC.
PAC usually chooses to fund another avenue, other than building new
He
square
said
footage.
a couple of counties or something that had happened where the Commonwealth's attorney went in there as well because it took their space where the building went, something like that. But he also said that it wasn't uncommon to have like the county attorney, if they needed space, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it'd be nice. We don't need anything big, just a small room, but somewhere where we could kind of gather, talk to witnesses or victims or whatever.
I think that is in
They
the
said,
way he explained it, that's in this initial deal.
that's
Okay.
an initial 65,000.
And I'm sure those are the kind of discussions.
And I asked them about would the sheriff's office, specifically the court security, if they would have offices and holding areas, and they said that would all be outlined as part of the building.
When I read it, the sheriff's office space came to my mind, whether that could be a possibility or.
And I think I asked him if any sheriff's office had been,
He said yes, but not many.
yeah.
Yeah, he did say that, but that would be a deal that the county would do and have to pay for.
Yeah, we paid pro.
Right, but they would add on to that square footage, yeah. We did ask that, he said that wasn't common either, he said the Commonwealth's attorney wasn't common, but both of them had been done in the past.
What about the bailiffs? I know the county pays for the bailiffs.
Court security would have,
That's what's
Yeah.
included in
Oh,
it.
that's
okay.
included in, it wouldn't be that would not be part of our responsibility.
Okay, when you said court security, I thought you were talking about the people who check us in, like do the metal detectors. So that, are you saying that's included as well?
Yeah, rooms, like,
Yeah, yeah.
room for them, and that's all included in this
Okay.
65,000 square feet.
Gotcha.
So, any other questions, comments?
So is essentially the board that is established by this MOU chooses the location and then,
The project development board will work together to try to determine location and siting, yes.
but they want the fiscal court to pass all the stuff for the bonding, but none of us are on there except for you, correct?
That's the way it reads to me.
Okay.
Yes, sir?
And the property, if you don't already own it, is part of that budget.
Yeah. And, there's nothing saying that,
If you have to acquire a property, it even includes demolition and stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
but, and we might be told no, but there's nothing in my mind saying that a citizen at large resides in the county could be appointed by the AOC director.
Right.
You all are citizens at large,
Right.
and we could ask for that consideration. But I think I know they'll work in good faith to work together to do what's
Oh, yeah.
best for the community. Any other questions?
That 3.5 million, that's a yearly for 20 years. And
Yeah.
I know it's over 3.5 million.
Yeah.
3.5.
Yes.
plus is their yearly payment
That is-
for 20 years.
Yes. But that is done by general fund dollars, not
Right.
Scott fiscal dollars. Is there would anybody like to entertain a motion? Motion from Mr. Ellison, a second from Mr. Lyons. Any other questions or comments the motion would be to accept the MOU as presented. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. With that said, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion from Mr. Hostetler, second from Mr. Burke. All those in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned.